Well, hello and welcome back to the channel. If you haven't watched the first segment of this video, which is how I blagged my way through my CBT, do go check the card at the top and go watch that. But this video here that you're joining me on is the follow-up. It's how I blagged my way through my MOD1 and MOD2. The video is in dedication of my subscriber Pedro, who has just passed his MOD2. He was a nervous rider and he came to my channel because of the nervous fearful rider video, which you'll see a card up at the top at the moment. Click that if you are a nervous or anxious rider. And yeah, so crack on with how I blagged my license basically. So in the UK you do a CBT, so you can ride a 125 on your own, and then you progress up to your full bike license, your DAS full access, which is the MOD1 and MOD2, mod being module. And basically MOD1 is car park stuff, so you go in this great big car park, you do a figure of 8, you do slalom, you do right turn and U-turns, and U-turns is where I was really panicking and my anxieties were all coming out, because basically the rules in the MOD1 is if you put a foot down, you fail. And my issue was when I was doing U-turns, you know, it was really back then 50-50, you know, if I was going to put my foot down or not. And it used to, you know, drive me mad. I was like, well, what happens if I put my foot down? And, you know, my instructor was like, well, don't worry about it, just don't put your foot down, which is obviously fantastic advice. I mean, really, it is good advice, because at the end of the day, what can you do? You've got to get on with it. You can't put your foot down, so just don't worry about putting your foot down. But obviously it's not what you want to hear when someone says, you know, don't worry about it, because you're like, well, I am fucking worrying about it. Anyway, night before my MOD1, I was sick as a dog. I mean, I was so nervous. I don't think I've ever been that nervous before, because I wanted to pass the test so much. Didn't get a wink of sleep. The next morning woke up again throwing up in the sink, just so anxious, and, you know, bile in your stomach, all the acid. And then went and did the MOD1 and basically passed it with like 1 minor, I think it was. So it was one of them where everything went to plan. I just about passed the speed trap, I think. But aside from that, it was all good. And it's one of them where you look back and you think, well, what was I worrying about, really? And then the troubles started with my MOD2. So what happened on the MOD2 was, it was a couple of weeks later, and we just got a lot of snow and freezing conditions overnight. So basically the day of the MOD2, I turn up to the test centre. I was with Carmen's in Northampton at that point. Big shout out to them. If you're in Northampton area and you need somebody to learn with, I really recommend Carmen's, Carl at Carmen's. So we basically get in the morning, Carl rings the test centre and they're like, that your test has been cancelled because it's too icy. And you're like, oh, for God's sake. Fine, okay, you know, I was there, so I did a lesson while I was there, you know, and it's great practice for me riding out in the ice and everything. Anyway, rebooked the test for like the next day. Turn up the next day. Now this is bearing in mind the next day I've got another night of throwing up and hardly sleeping and all of that. Turn up the next day and basically same again, test has been cancelled. Can't get me in now for about another week. So again, it was a week, 3 days, something like that. So again, turn up, and I was just panicking all on that time. Turn up for the 3rd time and cancelled once again. It was like, oh, for God's sake. And then it was Christmas and the holidays. So basically, test centre was shut, so I had to have a break. Come back after the break, test booked in, and this time the test was on, no cancellation. So off we go for my test, you know, one of the new tests of the year. Turn up to the test site, and Carl goes to me, goes, oh, there's a new examiner there, I don't know what he's like. So straight away I'm like, oh shit, is he here to like prove himself, or is he here, you know, maybe he wants us to pass, you know, and he wants to get a load of passes under his belt. So had the anxiety there of a new examiner. Basically I go out, get to the bike, comms and everything. Again, same system like with CVT. You've got one-way comms where they can talk to you but you can't talk back. And got on the bike, and he says to me over the comms, he goes, "Can you hear me?" I was like, yeah, I can hear you, like nodding my head. And he goes, "Yep, I'm in the car, silver Ford over there." And I was like, "What?" And it completely threw me that he's gone off in a car. And I had heard that this was possible. I think I saw it on a YouTube video or something. And there are pros and cons to the examiner being in a car. The pro being that he can't really see your instruments, so you know, if you're coasting like this, that would be a fail. But you know, he's not going to see it if he's in a car. But then the big down is that if you do anything on a test that causes a car to deviate from what it's doing or brake, emergency stop, well not emergency stop but like brake hard, then it's an instant fail. Whereas on a bike they can't really judge that. You're like bike to bike, if you like, if that makes sense. Anyway, so it was running through my mind, oh god, whatever. I forgot what fucking car he was in at that point. He was like, come out the test centre, turn right. So off I went, came out test centre, turned right. He's like, we're going to go down here and go on the dual carriageway. I'm looking in my mirrors, you know, thinking, what car's he in, silver something or whatever, you know. And so we go along, and he goes, right, we're going to join the dual carriageway. So I was like, cool, okay, let's get on the dual carriageway. And get on the dual carriageway, and I see a lorry in front of me. It's like, right, I can show him my overtaking skills. So off I go, overtake a lorry. It's like, that's a, you know, little pro in my my points for me, that I'm a rider, you know, you can trust me. And he said on comms, he said, right, we're going to go down for about half a mile and take the first junction, and then we'll head through town. Now my test was in Wellingborough, Rushden, that sort of way, and I don't know the area. I don't fucking know Northampton, you know my sense of direction if you've watched the channel. So basically I am dyslexic, so if you say something to me, it is literal, I take it literally. And the issue we had is that he said half a mile, the first junction. Now he wasn't certain on the first junction, but he sounded certain on the half a mile. Now the first junction came up and it wasn't half a mile, so I thought, no, it can't be this, it must be the next one. So I stayed out, and then I heard him on comms going, no, this one. And he was angry with it as well, you know. And I was like, well, I can't just slam now and go off, because that's going to be a fail, you know, an emergency maneuver, if you like. So I thought, I can't just pull over now, because that's like you know, a drastic maneuver. I'm going to have to slam on my brakes, pull right over. He's going to fail me for that, so I couldn't do that. So I just carried on straight, and I thought, oh man, he's going to fail me now, you know. I've messed it up straight from the outset. And he turns around and goes on comms, he's like, can you hear me? And I was like, this is my opportunity. He goes, nod your head if you can hear me. I tell you, viewer, my head has not been so still. Look how still my head is now. It did not move. It did not move at all. He was like, nod your head if you can hear me. So I kept my head perfectly still. And then I could hear him on comms, oh, he can't hear me, oh, whatever. And then there was a lay-by, so I pulled into the lay-by, and then I had him through comms going, oh, I can't pull in there. And he carried on past, so I just quickly ducked out, went along, and got off at the next junction where there's this big roundabout. Anyway, he comes over and he's like, could you hear me? I was like, no mate, I couldn't hear you, that's why I pulled off at the next one for you to sort it out. He's like, oh, okay. Lo and behold, he goes, oh look, this is the problem. He reaches down and he plugs these two wires in. Now to this day, I don't know if he knew what I was doing and he did it to placate me, or if there actually was something up with the wires, but I could still hear him anyway. And yeah, so basically after that he was like, can you hear me? I nod my head, and off we go, and I did the rest of my test. And I tell you what, I did everything perfectly. I did it double perfectly. I made sure I listened to him on everything he said, and we got back to the station and he gave me a pass with like one minor, I think it was. So so yeah, that is how I blagged my my mod 2 and got my big boy license. And yeah, if you're that examiner, I doubt you'll remember, it was God like 8 years ago, but yeah, so anyway, I hope you enjoyed my little fable, and as always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, a like and a subscribe would be greatly appreciated. While you're here on the channel, just click my name, have a little look around. There might be some videos you like, some of my ramblings, and yeah, thank you, and catch you on the next video.